Now, it occurs to me that it may be a little misleading to my audience to constantly refer to Lucky Star as my gateway anime. Make no mistake, I'd seen plenty of anime in bits and pieces before. Lucky Star was just the first I actually cared about. As a kid, I identified anime as those strange cartoons where the lips didn't quite sync the dialogue, and I had enough run-ins with cheap shonen garbage that I was all but convinced this was a medium I wanted no part in. Foremost among them, Sonic X. I have a complicated relationship with Sonic the Hedgehog. You may or may not have noticed that he's actually had something of an underlying presence in my videos since the very beginning. I'm not going to bore you with the semantics, but the best way I can sum up my history with Sonic is by comparing it to that of an abusive boyfriend. No matter how many pleasant memories I have with him, or how his influence has bettered my life in the past, he's changed. The Sonic I loved as a child is now a remorseless, calculating parasite that preys on your vulnerability. No matter how many times he promises he'll change, and no matter how much you want to believe him, he always ends up hurting you. Deeply, deeply hurting you. No matter how many times you reject him and cut off ties, he always ends up weaseling his way back into your life. Even when he's fresh out of rehab, seemingly has his drinking under control, and seems to be making decent progress to becoming the man you remember, the second you let your guard down, he's going upside your head with a bottle. And the worst part is, even when you've recognized the pattern and you know how things will end, there's still this part of you, this naive, irrational corner of your soul that waits for him, that's always willing to give him a second chance to remind you why you loved him so much to begin with. And maybe someday he will, who knows, but you still don't tell him where you keep the keys, or what the 4 final digits of your credit card are, or how much cash you keep in the house, because he just cannot be trusted. Anyway, one thing that Sonic has never really been all that capable of is telling a story, for the simple reason that Sonic is kind of a terrible character, at least within the context of a television series, and there's a very simple reason as to why. You see, Sonic the Hedgehog was designed to be a sprite, with a persona easily understood at a glance, a speedy hero with insatiable levels of tude. That's it. It's a persona so stock and rudimentary that it largely relies on the individual writers to do the heavy lifting when it comes to giving them an actual personality. In other words, there are literally hundreds of ways you could interpret this character, and it largely comes down to writing him around whatever story the author wants to tell. When handled by a team of competent creatives that actually communicate with each other, this can be a positive, and open up your character with a wealth of storytelling possibilities that wouldn't have been possible through conventional methods. When handled indiscriminately, you're left with a character that's nothing more than a diluted mishmash of ideas that's impossible to care about. Sonic has been recontextualized and readapted so many times, I'm hard pressed to even call him a character, and believe me, he's not alone. There are countless instances I can think of in which characters that were designed to be iconic or allegorical are suddenly written to have personalities for marketing purposes. This has led to unspeakable crimes, such as a Parappa the Rapper cartoon with no rapping, or Hello Kitty getting a mouth. And yeah, that's pretty despicable in its own right, but at least nobody gave Hello Kitty a 78 episode narrative-driven action series. And you know, maybe there are a handful of instances where this design first, write later mindset works out, but those cases are few and far between. Keep in mind, it's not just the character that's completely open to revamping, it's the tone, the setting, the lore, everything. We can see this just looking at all of Sonic's TV efforts. His first show was a simple comedy series for small children about Sonic and Tails just having fun and being heroes. Nothing terribly special, but as a kid I thought it was pretty cute. His next series, which for whatever reason ran at the same time but on a different network, was this awful dystopian drama show where Sonic joins a resistance to fight against this strange robot holocaust. Very stupid. Then there was a Dragon Ball wannabe abortion that was the Sonic OVA. I don't even know what the hell they were going for with Sonic Underground, but I do know this sucks ass. Sonic Boom may actually be the series that best plays to the strengths of the franchise. For such a simple character, it makes sense for the setting to reflect that simplicity, with an emphasis on light and fun. Preferably a segmented series with little to no overarching continuity and as few characters as possible. That doesn't save Sonic Boom from being worthless, dispensable garbage and the worst show currently on Cartoon Network, but at least its existence makes some degree of sense. Sonic X on the other hand remains perfectly content to make all the wrong decisions and push his audience as far away as possible. I've somehow managed to avoid actually talking about the show for like 1,000 words, so let's just dive in. Oh, and look who's in the very first frame. We're off to a great start. So the show begins with Sonic and all his mutant animal friends getting teleported from their homeworld to Earth, and the show already doesn't really make any sense. Since when was Sonic not on Earth? At no point in any of the games it suggests that Sonic games take place on some alien planet or another dimension, so what was even the point of this plot conceit? The original script simply states they came from another world, but the dub translates this as Mobius, which is really just a setting made up for the TV shows and comics. If you look back at the manuals of the original games, in none of them at any point in any region is Mobius even mentioned. There was nothing that suggested the Sonic games didn't take place on Earth, so again, why was this necessary? In the anime, Sonic arrives on Earth and acts as though he's never seen humans before. But Eggman's seemingly human and he's from Mobius, so how does that make any sense? And to complicate things even further, Sonic X eventually starts adapting the stories from the Sonic Adventure games, in which humanity plays a central role in the narrative, and once again Mobius is never mentioned. So it's like they're taking one canon and taking another canon and just cramming them together to the point that none of them make any sense. It's mind-blowing how incompatible the various components of this franchise are. But keep in mind, everything about this character and his world is completely open to interpretation. Remember how in the games, a single ring gives Sonic unbelievable bursts of power? Yeah, so like I was saying, Sonic starts running around Tokyo, wherever he is, and eventually moves in with this kid named Chris. We get to meet Chris and learn about his home life and his family struggles and relationship with friends at school and all types of foolishness. It kinda reminds me of the Tom and Jerry movie, you know, where the poor orphan girl is trying to find her lost father while desperately evading her abusive auntie who's hunting her down for ransom money. And there's a cat and mouse in there somewhere if you look hard enough. What is this obsession with shoehorning human characters into franchises where they simply don't belong? Seriously, what is the reasoning behind this? This seems to happen constantly, and it's not pleasant to watch. As far as personality goes, Chris is just a dollar store version of Tails, and his dynamic with Sonic is almost identical. So now that this show has failed in such crucial areas, there's pretty much no hope for it. Sonic's stupid friends slowly reunite with all their flaws intact and in perfect glory. If I didn't make it clear before, my criticisms of Sonic's character extends to everyone in the franchise, foremost among them being that they were all designed as sprites first and his characters second. Knuckles kicks off this big fight with Sonic because he thinks he's a thief or whatever, before realizing that he's been tricked and they're actually on the same team. Which could have been cool if this wasn't like the 5th time the scenario is taking place. They just keep resetting his character arc because he's defined by that character arc. Eggman may be the very worst on a conceptual level. Sometimes he's a bumbling idiot with dumb catchphrases and henchmen, and other times he's straight up Colonel Gaddafi. Are you seeing the problem here? Are you seeing why these characters can't carry a show like this? The reason Sonic X fails so spectacularly is because these are barely characters at all. They're just ideas, basic character templates with intentionally paper-thin personas. In the context of a side-scrolling platformer from the 90s, that's perfectly reasonable. Hell, it's preferable. When you have characters this expressive and easy to understand, you can tell stories with them just using visual cues and imagery, negating the need for cutscenes or on-screen text to advance the story. In a 78-episode story-driven series, however, they're in way over their heads, and bloating the cast with all these colourful, superfluous faces is not going to help. Soon enough, the show slips into a very predictable groove. About 10 minutes of slice-of-life foolishness, then a giant, predictable, ugly fight with Eggman. And when I say ugly, I mean seriously freaking ugly. Visually, Sonic X is otherworldly terrible. It looks like some cheap porno VA. I remember this show's one saving grace was its decent character artwork, but looking at it now, it's janky and inconsistent as all hell. You'd think for a franchise as celebrated and well known as this, they'd really put their backs into making it as awesome and lively as possible, but I guess they just didn't think it was worth it. Also, remember when I said that the ideal atmosphere for a Sonic the Hedgehog series is one with an emphasis on fun and light? Well, Sonic X is as far from that as you could possibly be. Unsurprisingly, the combination of the show's incompetent setting and shallow characters results in it becoming one of the most convoluted, incomprehensible train wrecks of a narrative I've ever seen. Like, I can't even really remember what the hell was happening towards the end. Something about a spaceship and fixing the moon, and Tails falls in love with his moe Brussels sprout. I don't freaking know, people. And no, I did not rewatch the whole thing for the sake of this video. Don't pretend like you would have. And if you're thinking, well, this was a series designed for little boys who were supposed to be into that stuff, keep in mind, I was a little boy when I watched this show, and even then I struggled to wrap my head around just what the hell was happening. How did anyone at any stage of this show's production think it was a good idea for a franchise this cute and simple to start taking itself so damn seriously? So much ridiculousness is crammed into this series that it's just overwhelming. Like, Eggman's grandfather starts building super weapons in space and his little daughter gets shot by the government or something. Apparently Jun Maeda took a swing at this script too. So if Eggman's from Mobius, I guess his grandfather is too, so she must have been shot by Mobius soldiers, but they're clearly human, and also somehow they work for the Earth's president? I can't even... Oh, and also as customary for this sort of thing, 4Kids of course also had their way with the show, altering dialogue unnecessarily, censoring the incredibly tame violence, replacing the pretty decent original soundtrack, turning down the more romantic and dramatic stuff, overall making a terrible show much, much worse. Okay, this right here is a change I can get behind. This thing is disgusting, you should feel bad for finding her hot. Now that I think about it, is this creature the cause of the furries? I mean, they seem to have emerged around the same time she first appeared. In fact, you know what, I'm holding Rouge the Bat personally responsible for this whole mess, until I see some substantial evidence to the contrary. Anyway, the most crucial change to the original series that 4Kids made was right around its climactic end. Spoiler alert, I guess. In fact, never mind, who the hell is watching this in 2016, really? Anyway, so for whatever reason that I can't understand, the crew ends up in a situation in which Tails has to kill the Brussels sprout girl so she can spread her seeds and save the galaxy or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, here's the scene in the original Japanese broadcast.
How long is this gonna go on?
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
私、テイルスさんに打ってもらいたいの。コスモ、僕は君を。
Wow.
Alright, I'd hesitate to call that a good scene, but it's probably one of the better scenes in this show. Now here's the 4Kids version.
But you're my friend, Cosmo. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. Trust me, Tails. You have to fire. I'm sure your seeds will find a place to grow and build a new home. Good luck, Cosmo. And goodbye.
Jesus, he sounded like he wanted to kill her. Okay, I've had enough. I think I've said my piece. Overall, Sonic X is garbage, just like Sonic himself. And it's stupid, and I hate it. 3 out of 10. Okay, well, I guess it's better than Gloss Lip. 4 out of 10. You know, if there's one thing I've learned from this whole experience, is you can't run away from who you are, no matter how desperately you try. At the end of the day, I'm a Sonic fan, an ugly term with an even uglier connotation. As much as he hurts me, and frustrates me, and repulses me, here I am, with a Sonic branded channel and more Sonic games than friends. All I can do is wait, and hope, that maybe one day, everything will work out, and he'll come back to me.
Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Get it on the floor. Get it on the floor. Get it on the floor. Get it on.
Hey everyone, do you love me and my videos so much that you can't even wait in between videos? Well, I just recorded a big giant interview with For No Good Reason on the King of Limbo, and that was a lot of fun, just pelting me with questions about the channel and all sorts. It's not out yet. He said it will be out within the week, so I'll add the annotation here when it actually comes out. And go check out the rest of his interviews as well, because he's done a lot of great interviews with a lot of anime guys and just internet people overall. He had one with Digi, I think. He did Goat Jesus. He did Mother's Basement. And also, if for whatever reason you haven't already seen it yet, go check out the big 4-hour seasonal podcast I did with Digi, Jeff, and Nate, because that was a lot of fun. And the odds are that you've already seen it. That's how like half the subscribers got to the channel. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. It's good to have you here. It's a cool place to be. And I have big plans for 2016. So, until next time.
Bye, have a beautiful time.